Hello lovely people, this is Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. I'm going to show you rather a lot of fabric today. I want to go through my quilt cotton stash. The last video I put out was an outdoor quilt show in Salmon Arm, BC, which is a couple of hours drive from where I live. And I managed to not give in to temptation when it came to buying fabric at the quilt shop afterwards. So that was good. I thought it would be rather relevant to have a mug which says, "I have enough fabric, said no one ever." Oh, that's super hot. I'm going to put that out of the way because otherwise I'll probably knock it on the floor. So I don't think also I've shown you how far I've got with the scrap quilt I've been putting together from my scrap bag. So that's back there, and I'll show you what I pieced together for the top and the backing after we've gone through all this. It's crazy. So these cubbies behind me, I've put some art supplies in there. Now, I did have a bunch of fabrics that were rolled onto pieces of cardboard. And I had them lined up in there. But you know what? I think I'm going to rethink that plan because I want to put the different colors of fabric into their different colored sorted bins. That quilt show yesterday was amazing. Take a look at the last video I put out. It was this morning, as I'm talking to you now, outdoor quilt show in Salmon Arm, BC. So much inspiration, color, pattern, quilt patterns. Oh man. Absolutely incredible. So many quilts in such a lovely location. My friend and I had a fantastic day. So because I had already pulled all of my quilt fabric out and put it on the sewing table right in front of me, I already knew that I didn't really need any more fabric, and that kept me strong while faced with all the beautiful fabrics at the quilt shop, like the Free Spirit and the Tula Pink and the Tilda and the Moda, and yeah, it's so lovely. These plastic bins are just ones from the dollar store. Looks like I got them from Dollarama, which is a Canadian quilt store. Not quilt store, dollar store. Oh, Nicola. Canadian dollar store. And they're very good. They've got lots and lots of stuff, which, you know, it doesn't necessarily need to be intended for crafts. But, you know, we crafters can always turn something around to be useful, right? So most of my bins have a color on them. And the blacks bin is also including things like greys and I think whites. So it's really a neutrals bin. I should probably change the name on that. So we have lots and lots of fabric in here. Since I sorted it all out during the week, it's way more organized. So these are my black and neutral ones. I've got a Toy Story one there with Forky. Was it Forky, his name? Yeah. And looking at some of these fabrics, I just know they've been in the stash for far too long. There's a little Yoda one there. There is one here that has the look of a dog newspaper. Now, yeah, I have mixed feelings about that one because there's some typos in it. So, yeah, not the best. And then I have some Pink Panther fabric, which I've had for donkey's years. And going through all this was really, really useful because now I know what I have and what I need to use up. What's this one? Pinks. There's some pretty ones in here. Some of the fabrics I've been given. I hardly ever buy florals, but my friend gave me a whole ton of them, and so I know I'll use them for something. This is gorgeous. I have, I think, 3 different colorways of that print. So there's all my pinks. And then what next? Yellows and oranges. Not something I have a huge amount of, so the yellows and oranges got put together in the same box. I'm a little glowy today. It's getting hot outside, and I did a quick workout, and then I went outside to hang out some laundry, and it is so hot out there, and the grass on the lawn is so crispy and sad looking. We have to limit our watering because, you know, there's always a water shortage here in the summer, and so we set our sprinklers for a couple of times a week for a short while, but then anything we really care about, we have to water by hand. This is rather pretty. Some of the fabrics obviously belong or could belong in different boxes. I do have a couple of miscellaneous ones. This robin one I absolutely love. I bought a lot of that one. And then also this crab one is beautiful. And I don't think I've used any of that yet. Maybe a tiny bit of it, I'm not sure. Let's see, what next? Browns. I've said before and I'll say it again, not a fan of brown fabric. I tend to like bright colours, fun colours. Brown doesn't really fit into that. But sometimes you need a duller colour to set off a brighter one, don't you? So I do have a little bit of a collection of them. Some of the fabrics, again, came to me in a bag of stuff from a friend. But something like this makes a really good bag lining with the buttons. And then I've got this lovely, not much left of this, but this lovely dotty fabric, which I have in a few different colorways, which I love. And I remember making a couple of small bags out of one of those colorways for gifts. When I left Fabricland, I think I gave the higher up managers a bag each. And we are croaking again. I'm going to just toss these plastic bins on the floor because once I go through all my stuff on the cardboards, I'm going to be adding them in. Hopefully it all fits. Hope so anyway. These are my blues. Quite a lot of those. A fun animal print. A snowboarding print from way back when. I haven't snowboarded in 8 years since I broke my right wrist. Yeah, that kind of put me off. A fun one that has campers on. I like that. And then lots of sort of random neutral kind of ones. There's another one with that pattern on that has those lovely circles on in blue. I'm running out of room here. What next? This one is purples. There's that print again in a very light purple. There is a crazy bright one with pink and turquoise and purple in it that I got for free because it got thrown out at Fabricland years ago because someone came back and complained that the dye ran like mad on the red one. And so I got to bring some of this home and I washed it and I didn't see any bleeding and it's been fine so far. Fingers crossed. So that's all the purples. Reds. That's all I've got in the reds. It's really pathetic, isn't it? I just have one here with red maple leaves on a white background, one with a buffalo plaid maple leaf, a little bit of Valentine fabric with gnomes on. That's it. It's kind of pathetic, but I obviously don't tend to buy a lot of fabrics with red in. I do have a love more for the secondary colours rather than the primaries. Greens. Greens are in a big bin. I don't know if that's because I had more greens or just that I ran out of the small ones. Now, I know for sure that this fabric I bought just as we were getting to the point where we were locking down at COVID, which would have been about March 2020. And I did a little bit of panic buying at work because I was like, oh, I don't know how long we're going to be closed for. I need to stock up. Actually, it wasn't such a bad idea because I did end up sewing quite a few masks over COVID, but I probably should have stashed a lot more elastic. I did not do that. This one is really cute. My favorite part of this fabric is the yarn bombed trees. I think that's adorable. So yeah, just a whole bunch of random stuff in there. In the greens. So this one is just one of my mixed ones. These ones did not really belong in any one color. I have had these crazy cartwheeling cats in my stash for far too long. I really, really need to use them up. I have some pieces of a panel as well with some lovely woodland animals. That, I'm sure I could come up with something for that. This is my scrap bag. Did you see? Did you register the fact that it is empty? This was stuffed with about 7 pounds of scraps not long ago. And I have been making things like mad, including this scrap quilt top back here. And so when I got mostly to the bottom of the scrap bag, I divided up what was left into the bins because having so much scrap, sometimes you can take off the S, right, and call it crap because you get so fed up with it. Sometimes it feels like crap. And it's stuff you've had lying around for so long you don't want to look at it anymore. But yeah, I just wanted to empty it. So I'm keeping that in my miscellaneous box right now so that it doesn't bug me anymore. This is another miscellaneous bin. It has a very fun cartoon print here. This one says, "It's ruined. You really do need a Microtex needle to sew knit." I used that on this denim bag, actually. This was funny. This says, "Sob, how was I supposed to know to cut it on the bias? Why does everything happen to me? Modern sewing woes. I can't bear to leave these bolts behind me. Am I a fabric addict?" That was a lot of fun to make. So there's a lot of things in here. Again, more florals, which I didn't buy myself, but I was given. There's a very large chunk of this. It's pink background with, what do you call that? Is that lilac on it? Possibly. It's quite pretty. Not my usual taste, but, you know, it might come in handy. I've got quite a fun range of froggy fabrics. So frogs with lily ponds and some dragonflies and things like that. I also have somewhere, I don't know which bin I left it in now. Oh, maybe it's this one. I also have some fun Snoopy prints. I got a fat quarter bundle of these from, I think it was Wool Warehouse in the UK. I know I made my sister something out of that because she has been nuts about Snoopy since she was about 12. And I can't remember what it was. Oh, yeah, I think I made a kind of a bum bag by Spencer Ogg. And what was the name of the bag now? The Amplector. I think I made an Amplector out of it. What's this little bin here that I missed? Oh, yeah, blue greens. One of my favorite ranges of color, blue greens. So I know this spool thread fabric has been around for donkey's years. This is one of my favorites, this lovely butterfly fabric, which my friend gave me. I don't know where she got it from, but it's so beautiful. Again, a camper. I love campers. If it's got that on the fabric, I want it. And then a whole bunch of random stuff. Tiny bit of Scooby-Doo is left in there. So one of the things I want you to tell me at the end of the video, when you leave a comment, let me know if you think I have too much fabric, or just right, or not enough. I can always squeeze in an extra bundle of fabric from somewhere, can't I? Phew, looking through fabric is hot work. It's Sunday today, and I kind of feel bad for not having been in the lake yet for a swim, because summer, you know, flies by, but I don't want to battle the crowds. I'm thinking later in the week, I'm probably going to go for a swim, but I'll go in the morning on a weekday when maybe fewer people are out and about. I have some baggy scraps here. Now, if you've been around for a while, you will remember that I had a massive, massive cutting session of my scraps, and I cut the maximum size possible out of each scrap and filled some bags. So I have some 2-inch scraps, some 3-inch scraps, some 4-inch scraps, some 5-inch scraps, and some 6-inch scraps. So I do dip into these now and again. I didn't just put them in there and forget about them, but I haven't used them as much as I thought I would. They're very random. I think if I had more of them, then I would have had more that I felt kind of went together. But hey, I tend to just do scrappy things without worrying whether the fabric color goes together anyway. So maybe I should just sew. That little bundle is my pre-cut squares, which cost me nothing, pretty much. Let's put them over there, because I won't be adding to those today. Batiks. When I initially got all my fabrics out, I completely forgot that I had 2 drawers of batiks in my little plastic unit over there. So, batiks are something that I tend to wash when I bring them into the house, iron, and then put away. I don't do that with any of my other quilt cottons, but I had a bad experience with a hand-quilted quilt once where some blue went and bled badly into the surrounding fabric and through to the backing. I held on to that quilt for a really long time. It was English paper pieced. It was hexagons. It was quite pretty. And I suppose I was hesitant to give it away because I put so much work into it, even though it had a little bit of bleeding in the dye. Eventually, I put a picture up on my Facebook or somewhere, and I asked my friends, does anyone want this quilt? It's not perfect, but if you want it, here it is. And someone took it off my hands. I can't remember who now. Somebody wanted it, though. Because, you know, even if they used it for their pet, I'm just glad it got used. So I have a ton of beautiful batiks in here. I got some lovely turtle ones from a trip to Maui. The first time we went to Maui, there was only 2 times we went, and I don't know if we're going to go back, at least not in the foreseeable future, because we have other plans to go other places now. But the first time we went to Maui, we stayed in Kihei. If you know Maui at all, you'll probably know where that is. And there's a gorgeous little quilt shop there. And so I thought, I have to buy a souvenir of some kind. So I bought a bundle of turtle fat quarters, which I think are in the other bin. It's underneath this one. And then a lot of the other batiks I picked up at Fabricland when they were on sale, because they were always the most expensive. You call something a batik, and suddenly it costs twice as much as everything else. Our Michaels, well, the one I work at, now has bolts of fabric, and they do have some batiks. And the prices are actually pretty good. I think they're $20 a meter. Some of the regular quilt cartons are only 10. So yes, they're charging a bit extra for a batik, but it's still not as bad as Fabricland. This is lovely. It's butterflies. Love, love, love that color. Some of these have been cut into. I find it really hard to use the batiks because I don't want to waste them. You know how that is, right? You have these beautiful fabrics or beautiful whatever, and you just want to keep hold of it because you're scared of wasting it. And I know that's kind of silly, you know. We're not going to live forever, are we? So why not just use the thing? Use the thing. Now that I've emptied that scrap bag, I did have a promise to myself that once that was empty, I was going to use the good stuff. So now I can't go back on that promise, can I? That's butterflies. I think that's the same as that turquoise one. It's just got the butterfly print, but with a different background color. And the nice thing about batiks is Mr. Stitches, aka my husband, absolutely loves batiks. He loves the colors, he loves the prints. And so if I buy batiks, he never complains. Yeah, I just love how saturated the colors are. Oh, look at that one. So pretty. Some of these were used for masks during the COVID era. We had the prettiest masks of anybody out there. I haven't found the turtle ones. Maybe I missed them. Where did my turtle ones go? Oh, maybe they're at the bottom here. Hold on a minute. I'm just going to zip past these. So here's one of them. I have quite a few of this turtle style of batik, but in at least 6 different colorways, I think. Yeah, so those make me very happy. I'm happy anyway. I'm generally a happy person, but these make me happier. Oh, missed a bit. Okay, we're still not to the fabric that's rolled onto cardboard yet, because I have one more bundle of fabric to show you. This beautiful pile of fabric is 2 fat quarter bundles of Free Spirit fabric from Kay Fassett and his team. And just recently I did a look through on video. I can't remember which blog that was, but I actually opened them all up and had a proper look at them. And you know, it had been a couple of years since I bought them. It was the first time I had actually opened them up to have a proper look. And I just love the colors. I love Kay Fassett's use of color and pattern. I have one of his quilt books, and I've had all of his other quilt books out of the library multiple times. And most of his quilts are actually quite simple in their piecing, and they just get their wow factor from the absolutely amazing fabric he designs. Yeah, I'm still not sure what I'm going to use this for, but I just love it so much. And finally, we're going to do a quick look through the ones which I bought extra yardage of. What I do is if I go to a fabric store, I tend to look through the clearance bins, and I like to buy things that are good for maybe bag linings, things that are partly drawing my eye because maybe they have campers on, or flowers I like, or a color I like, but also some that are a little bit more neutral and less in your face, because if I make a bag, I like to have a fairly neutral lining. So I do have, hang on a minute, I'll put that one aside for a minute. We'll go through these quickly. And I think, as I said, what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take these off the cardboards and put them in the bins they belong in. And I'll see if they fit, because I've gone and filled up my cubbies back here with art supplies. So I just love that. I bought that for the pretty colors, of course. I've got more than one of those, so we'll put that aside for a minute. This is beautiful. It's reminiscent of Australian Aboriginal dot art. And it has orcas and jellyfish and fish and crabs. Absolutely lovely. So I'm going to have to come up with something special for that, aren't I? And then this one is, it's not a coordinate, I don't think, but it's very similar in that it's got a lot of dotty art on it. And these are just shells. Do like that one. Oh, again, that one is one of more. This one has little Buddha heads on and lotus flowers. And I thought that would make a good bag lining. I don't think I've used any of that yet, but definitely that one jumped out at me. This one was a bad buy. I have to tell you, this one was a really, really bad buy, because when I iron it, which, you know, you have to do when you're constructing a bag or something, you do tend to apply some heat at some point during the process. And these little shiny bits, they peel off. I don't know who thought that was a good idea for a quilt cotton, but it wasn't. This, totally me, of course. Totally me. Absolutely crazy colors and beautiful flowers. I'm going to have to sort these as I go. What else? Oh, yeah, this one. This has buildings on and pigeons, I think, mostly. Buildings and pigeons. Kind of a cityscape. It just appealed to me for whatever reason. And of course, the nice thing about buying things out the clearance bin is they cost a lot less. The fabric land down in Penticton, some of their fabrics are $35 a meter, and I find that a scary price for a quilt cotton. So if I can get it for 3 or 8 or 10 even, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. This is a fascinating one. It's got all sorts of triangular patterns. It's almost like it's already a quilt, and you could almost just use it as a quilt top without doing any piecing, and quilt around the shapes, and Bob's your uncle. Know where that phrase came from. Bob's your uncle. This is really pretty. Butterflies, another thing I tend to gravitate towards. Pink flowers. So when I buy fabric, Fabricland has a minimum cut. If it's in the bargain center, you have to buy a meter. And I know that's a good usable amount for a piece of quilt cotton. But if it's a panel, obviously I'll get a bit less if it's a 0.6 or a 0.8 of a meter panel. And if I think it's just got an interesting pattern, but I'm not going to use scads of it, I might buy a half of a meter. Always makes sense in my head. This is a super ugly grey chevron, which, albeit ugly, does make a good bag lining. These two are fun because they remind me of denim. And so this one is just dots and this one is flowers. And I think they make fantastic coordinates for upcycled denim, which I do use quite a lot. Another beautiful one with dragonflies on. This one, super useful. Cut, Sew, Repeat. Made quite a few sewing themed products with that when I was sewing for the market a couple of years ago. And I really do like that. I even made some scissor holders, those sort of triangular things with a flap that snaps shut and holds scissors. This is just made for that, isn't it? It really is. Very popular fabric when it came in at the store. This one's beautiful. Little old-fashioned wire mannequins, sewing machines, pin cushions, threads, scissors. Yep, love that. Another sewing themed one with sewing machines and threads and scissors on. Another theme that obviously calls to me for obvious reasons. A tape measure one, which coordinates with that one that I just showed you. Pretty because it's just the color I love. This one has a red truck on it. I didn't used to like red truck fabrics, but apparently I now do. Has quilt bonds and red trucks piled with fabric. But yeah, I love that one. They've won me over, the red trucks. Regardless of what time of year it is, doesn't have to be just for Christmas. VW type campers, totally something I adore. Had to have some of that. And then there's one with lots of small ones on, of course. And then I've got one that looks like a whole bunch of seed packets. Sometimes when you buy a panel like this, it's very limiting. You end up loving the panel, but not loving figuring out how to use it. And quite often when something is square or rectangular and it looks fine, it actually turns out to be printed wonky with the grain of the fabric and it skews. I've had that problem so many times that I really have to remember not to fall for that one again. Another blue-green, which of course I had to have because blue-green. A one with cute little purses and shoes. This has been used a lot. I bought a lot of that and it's been a great bag lining. Love, love, love daisies. So of course this one had to come home with me. Love little scooters. And of course this one had to come home with me. Oh boy. This one is maybe not quite fitting in with the whole color scheme that I normally go for. I do like bright colors, and this is lots of spools of thread. But I can honestly say, I don't think I have anything that coordinates with it. So not sure what I'm going to use that for in the end. This is the one I bought to make a tailored shirt with, which turned out really well. I was very happy with it. And I have enough left of it to, I don't know, add to a quilt or something, or maybe make some other accessory. It was $3 a meter. And I think I bought 3.5 meters. So I got that shirt. I made that shirt for about $10, which made me happy as well. This one's really unusual. Look at this one. If you look at the width of this fabric, hang on, let's get the end that I haven't cut into. So it's actually 5 strips of different patterns. So there's a pink one, there's a grey one, a green one, and then a white one with a print, and then a turquoise one. So it's got 5 different prints in one bolt, which I think is absolutely crazy, but fun. And as long as you only need a little bit of each one, you're all set, really, aren't you? I'm not going to spend too much time wrapping that one back on there because it's probably going to end up in one of my plastic bins. This one, of course, called to me because it looks like quilt fabric, patchwork fabric, I should say. This one has lovely mushrooms on it. This is another one of those weird ones that has all sorts of shapes already printed on it. And you could probably just use it as a quilt top, quilt around the shapes, and again, you have a quilt. This is one I bought a lot of because I thought it might be good for bag linings. It's just a bunch of letters. Most of the letters are black, but every now and again there's a line of gold letters where they make a word like beauty or handmade or blessed or zen or something like that. Very, very useful fabric. Good for a lot of things. Another wacky floral. Oh, yeah. When I said I don't buy florals, I meant I don't buy pastel florals or antique or vintage looking florals. I buy modern looking florals. Seahorses, another weak spot for me. Love seahorses. Another one with tape measures on. Sewing themed, of course. A crazy bright black one, which again makes a good bag lining, especially if you're making something for kids. Two of these. So this is just like a brush stroke kind of look in blue and green. When I was at the quilt shop yesterday, I think I probably would have been tempted to have bought some fabric if I could have found a fat quarter bundle of their lower cost solids. They had a couple of bundles of Tilda solids, which were very beautiful. But it worked out. What I do is I figure out how much fabric is in the fat quarter bundle. So say there's 24 fat quarters. That is 6 meters, possibly 6 yards of quilt fabric. So then I divide the price by that 6 meters and I work it out per meter. So it worked out something like $23 a meter for the Tilda fat quarters, which isn't terrible. But Thread and Paper were selling their solids for something like $14 a meter. And I just thought if they had pre-prepared a lovely bundle of, say, 24 different solids for a decent price, I would definitely have bought that, because I tend not to buy solids, and yet they are kind of useful, aren't they? They can fill in the gaps and give your eye somewhere to rest in between the crazy prints. So these were called Linen Look. They're just cotton, of course, but again, 2 handy neutrals. Pile is getting really high here. And then 2 of these. Oh, wait, there's another Linen Look one that's the same as those, but in green. And then these 2, which I just thought were really pretty and again would make good bag lining. And finally, whoops, plastic lids everywhere because I've got them all off the bins. 3 fruit and vegetable prints, which I just used recently to make snack bags. Tomatoes, Brussels sprouts and raspberries. I did have a little seed of an idea that I might make 100 snack bags to donate to the festival that I'm helping with. And I talked myself out of it. The problem would have been buying enough of the lining fabric. It would have either had to have been food safe PUL or ripstop nylon or something like that. I would have had to mail order it. It would have been quite expensive. And yeah, I talked myself out of it. I thought I've got enough busyness and stress this summer without adding another layer of stress. I think I may have added some extra fiber to my tea. The dust has been flying. Okay. Now this has been sitting here for probably a couple of weeks now, because I finished it and I don't think I showed you it in a video yet. But then I went off for 5 days to Nanaimo on Vancouver Island, and so it's just been waiting for me to give it some attention since then. I've picked out the quilt batting I'm going to use. This was from Michael's. It was on clearance at approximately half price. It is a piece of batting that's 90 by 108 inches, which is 228 by 274 centimeters. It's quite thin, But that doesn't matter. It's fine. And it's 80% cotton and 20% poly. I don't think it says how closely you have to quilt it. Oh, yes, it does. It does. That's handy. It says recommended quilting distance 2 to 4 inches, which is very close, actually. That's quite densely quilted. I wonder if that's because it's quite thin and they're wondering or thinking it might come apart. Take a look, in case you were thinking of buying this stuff. That's if Michael's even still has it, because if I bought it on clearance, they may not have it anymore. Let me just have a closer look. It feels very nice. But yeah, it's pretty thin. But it'll be fine for this quilt, because I didn't want to invest too much in it. I feel like the quilt top and the back are basically free because I made it out of scraps. So let's just back up a little bit here. I'm absolutely covered in threads again. That's what happens when I come down here. All right, here we go. So these squares I built up similar to log cabin squares, and I had been pulling scraps out of my scrap bag and trying to theme them. Like a lot of these were a brown theme, or they were a red and blue theme, or they were a purple and green theme. Some of them were a pink theme, and others were just a bit random. I had a couple of leftovers after I had decided what grid I was going to make it in, so I took out my least favorite ones. So after I had sewn the center ones together, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so they're 7 inches originally. No, I cut them at 7 3/4 for approximately a 7-inch finish. There's 5 by 4, so 20 blocks in the center. Then what I did is I used a border of a really neutral, unexciting blue to calm everything down a bit. And then I used the scrappy strips I had been building as the second border. And as you can see, the colors don't go at all. It is absolutely wild. And even though that is the case, I feel like someone would still probably like to have it. I think it would make a great kid quilt because there's lots of stuff for them to find in here. You know, you could point out all sorts of things like fish and flowers and bell peppers and buttons. There's so much in here. So that came out a really good size for a child, I think. And then for the backing, I had some of the strips left over. I decided to use my ugliest brown fabrics, partly, and my strips that were partly already ready, and that blue fabric again. So I've got this blue fabric, which has got tiny hearts on it. I've got a strip there of scrappy stuff. Got a couple more strips of ugly brownish stuff. Another scrappy strip. Another couple of ugly brown strips. Another scrappy strip. This one I added a tiny bit of trimmed off scrappy strip, oh my god, I can't say that, between 2 other pieces of fabric, which I kind of like. And then I ended up with another blue. So that's that. So I'm pretty sure I made this a little bit bigger than my quilt top, or maybe about the same. I can't remember now. It was a couple of weeks ago. So what I'll do is I'll get some batting a little bit bigger than the quilt top. I'll lay that down. I'll put the quilt top on. I'll put the quilt back right sides together. I'll sew most of the way around, do the flip out, and then sew the gap. And yeah, I have quite the collection of buttons back here. all my color coordinate. I do like to color coordinate things, don't I? I just realized all my quilt cartons are color coordinated for storage, as are my buttons. It makes things so much easier when you need something that's a specific color. And I will probably just use some of my embroidery floss to tie buttons at intervals. Maybe I'm going to have to focus on doing that fairly closely, because it does say 2 to 4 inches, doesn't it? So I guess it will take a lot of buttons, but that's good because I have lots of stash buttons to use up. Well, I think I've been chatting long enough. We've got to the end of the quilt cartons. I hope you enjoyed watching me go through all of that. I am hoping it filmed well, because I am experimenting with using the back camera on my phone instead of the front camera. Sometimes I'll look at the videos I make. When I'm editing on my laptop, they look great. When I'm looking at them on my phone, they look great. But then sometimes I will see it come up on my TV, which is like a 50-something inch TV. And it starts to play, or I'll play it just to see how it looks. And I don't like how the resolution isn't as sharp as I would like. And of course, my son says, of course, he knows all this sort of thing. He says, well, the front camera is never as good a quality as the back camera. And so I'm flipping my camera around. The last couple of videos, if I've been filming myself, I've mostly had it the other way around, which is tricky because I have to remember to look at the right place. I'm so used to being able to look at a certain place and see myself in the screen. And I haven't been able to do that today, but I'm hoping that the fact I am using the back camera means that this will look a lot better on a large screen. So if you have any feedback on that, please let me know. I really don't want to have to invest in a brand new camera that's dedicated for vlogging, because this is only a little channel. It's not like I'm making any money out of it, but I do want it to look good and sound good. Having said all that, I'm glad you were here with me all the way to the end. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful week. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.